Page 97?
Yes. Page 97. The second book of the 5 books of the Torah is called Shemot. Shemot. Shemot means names. The reason it's called this is Al Shem Tchilasoi, on the beginning. The first words. The first words of this book are, these are the names of the Jewish people that went into Egypt. Elu Shmot Bnei Yisrael Aboim Mitzrayim. These are the names of the Jewish people that came into Egypt. But Cave and Sekal, Sefer, Nikra Cain, because the whole book is called by the name of names, Hechrach Ulomar, we must say, Shashem, that this whole idea of a name, Mivateh Betocho, it contains within it Tochen, the whole content, HaSefer of the book, Bichlaluto, in a general way. Below Rak Tchilato, not just the beginning. So what do we say? That this whole book, the book is called Names, because that's the first word. It says the Rebbe, no. Because the whole book is called Names, it must be that every aspect of this whole entire book, second book of Exodus, call it in English, must have something to do with names. That's why it's the title. Right? You read a book, there's a title to the book. You read go to a movie, there's a title to the movie. Right? It must be that the title of that book or the title of the movie is expressed in every aspect of the movie and every aspect of the book. Right? But this is not. I'm sorry. B'tchilas Parsha, in the beginning of our Torah section, Sefer Shemot, in this book of Exodus, Nimnim, there is counted, there is enumerated Shmoteim, the names Shal Bnei Israel, the Jews, Shabo Mitzrayim, that came into Egypt. The Yudu, and it's known the question. Hari Kavar Nimnu, it already was enumerated. Hashemut, these names already were talked about in the end of the book of Genesis. Not the very end, in the book of Vayigash. Adarabah, period Yoter, there it even has more detail in Parsha, in Vayigash. It tells who was the son of who. The Shem Ma, why? Mone Otama Torah Shenis. Why does the Torah have to tell us again the names of the people that went down? Let it just say, the Jews went into Egypt. What does it have to say? These are the names of the Jews went into Egypt. When we just learned a couple weeks ago that these were the names of the people that went down into Egypt. It was already said. Why say it again? What's the point? Same people, same names. Gama Parshat Vayigash, also in Parshat Vayigash, in the end of the book of Genesis, we also have to understand that we can also ask a question. Shemot Bnei Yaakov, the names of the sons of Jacob, Kavar Huskru, were already mentioned twice before in Parshas Vayetze and Parshas Vayishlach. 2 previous chapters in the book of Genesis. It should be enough that in Vayigash, the kids would just say Yaakov and his sons came into Egypt. We already know who his sons are. We already know who they are. Av Shalo Hayinu Yodim, even though maybe we didn't know the names of Bnei Banav, of his grandsons. Okay, good. But if so, why do we have to say the names of the sons again? Right? Yaakov, Ruvain, Shimon, Yehuda, Levi, Yehuda, right? Yisachar, Zvulun. Why have to say it again to all the 12 sons? Why repeat it again and again and again? Why repeat it? So now this is taking for granted, this is taking on the assumption that the Torah was written by God. which doesn't really make any sense how the Torah could be written by God. But that's the whole essence of the Torah, that it really is above understanding. The Torah has four aspects to it in general. There's what's called pshat, simple meaning. Remez, the hints. Drush, all the things which can be called homiletic, things which can be learned out usually in the Gemara, in Midrashim, and Agadas. And then there's the secrets of the Torah. The secrets of the Torah. The secrets of the Torah are the godly part, the mystery part of the Torah. Mysteries, things which are not at all obvious. They're very concealed. But it's taking for granted that every one of these words were all written by God himself. Pshat, simple meaning. God wrote the whole Torah. He gave the whole entire Torah to Moshe. And it was passed down from generation to generation. But never stopped. There was never a week where the Torah was not read in public. From the time of Moses, he established the Torah, the 5 books of Moses should be read in public. Every week another portion. So there was never any time where the Torah was forgotten or changed or altered or eliminated or whatever, like all these other competitors with Judaism claim. But it's a very basic thing that the Torah was written by God himself. Written by God himself. It was dictated to Moshe. Moshe dictated it, but God told him exactly what to write. It was written by. So if God writes something in the Torah that seems to be a repetition, it must be that it's coming to tell us something important. Maybe it's something so mysterious that we can't understand it. But it's a commandment that we have to try to understand God as much as possible. It's a commandment to love God and fear God. You can't love God and fear God if you don't understand something about it. But also, da'as Elokei Avicha. You have to know God. To try to know as much as you can about God. Even though the essence of Judaism is faith, 13 principles of faith. But also, part of that faith is to try to understand, try to use your mind as much as possible to understand God. Therefore, why does it repeat again and again and again the names of the tribes, the sons of Jacob, which later they become the tribes? But Midrash, in the Midrash it says, Torah, that the Torah moneh, it counts at the Shemot, the names, Kedei, in order, L'ramez, to hint to us, Shekol Matayim ve'eser Shanot, that the whole 210 years that the Jews were in exile in Egypt, Lo Gormu Lahem, it did not cause the Jews to change their names. Lo Shinat Shamam, they did not change their names. In other words, the non-Jews, the Gentiles, did not have an effect on the Jews, not like it is in America and wherever it is, right? The Jews are now called Sean, and they're called whatever it is called, Tony, Ronald, Sheldon. Only Jews are called Sheldon. It's just a Jewish name. Sheldon.
He didn't even like that name.
I had 3 friends, and I said 3 friends, Sheldon. But no one in my high school was called Yehuda, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Tuvia for sure not. Tuvia, if I would have been called Tuvia, I would have gotten a fight every day. Man, this is
you could have called me Sue. Would have been better.
Anyway, nobody changed their names. Nobody changed. In Egypt, nobody changed their names, and they were slaves. Otam Shem was the same name, Shehoyu Lahem, that they had, but boom, when they came to Egypt, Nisharu remained by them also when they went out. Al Kain, therefore, Mitzayen at the Torah, therefore the Torah specially singles out for us at Shemotim, the names when they came into Egypt, in order to tell you, Shehem Otam Shemot, that they are the same names, Shal Bnei Israel, of the Jewish people, Kafish Nikru, as they're called in the Parshas afterwards when they came out of Egypt. Great answer. But Ein Zalachiora Bir Maspid. But this is not a sufficient answer. Good answer, but insufficient. Why? Madua, if so, Masaper the Torah, why does the Torah tell us which names were to the Jewish people? Be'eit Yeridasam L'Mitzrayim. Why does the Torah have to tell us what the names were when they came into Egypt? Reuven, Shimon. Lefia Midrash, according to the Midrash, the only thing that's important is when they left, they didn't change it. It could have just said, these are the names of the Jews that are leaving Egypt, right? And then it could have said the same names as when they went in. Chashuv, it's only important to know, Shalosh Shinu et Shemam, they didn't change their names. Umikach, from this the Torah says, Ve'elu, and these are the names of the Jewish people. Nisaperet, Sheshemotam, that their names were Reuven, Shimon, etc. Move, and it's also important, Shagam, Beminyan Prati, in singling out the individual names, Yesh Kavana Miyucheres. There's something special about to know the names of each and every Jew as they went in, and while they were there, and when they left. Not just the fact that they didn't change them. If that was the important thing, it would have just said the Jews never changed their names, and when they went out, it was the same names, and these are the names that went out, and then say the names. Milvad, there must be something special in addition to the fact that they didn't change their name. Ki b'Torah akol mediyot, because in the Torah everything is exact. Good? Base. So what could possibly be the significance of reminding us so many times the names of the names of the sons of Yaakov and their sons and their grandsons? Why repeat it again and again and again? Why repeat it? And especially, why mention it when they went into Egypt? That's the question. Why when they went in? Say what their names are when they were born. Say what their names are when they leave Egypt. Good. And then why have to tell us again when they went into Egypt? And that's the whole name of this book.
Well, when they went in as people. When they came out as tribes.
Okay, good. We'll see. But the point is that we knew how they were called when they were born. Right? Parshas Vayetze tells about the names of them when they were born. Right? Then when they were leaving, traveling, when they were leaving, so it tells also their names and the names of the sons, the grandsons also. It says the names. It's true that they went out, but it also tells what they were, the names of the sons also, the grandsons. Odnemar also says in the Midrash, on the Pasuk, Ve'elu Shemos, Shekulim Heim Yisrael Ketzavah Shemayim. The Jewish people are equal like the stars of the heavens. Ne'emar Kan Shemos, it says by the Jewish people, these are the names, but Ne'emar B'Kochavim, and it says by the stars, Shmos, also their names. Where does it say the names of the stars? It says in Psalms, the book of Psalms, right near the end. Mone mispar l'kochavim l'chulam shem nosikro. We say it every day in our prayers. God counts the stars, and each one has its name. Av Kodesh Baruch Hu, also God, Kishe Yordu Yisrael, when the Jewish people went down to Egypt, Mana misparam, he counted their numbers. Kama hayu, how many there were, or Lafishem, because they are. Meshulim, because the Jewish people are likened, compared to the stars. Korashemos, he called names to all of them. Like it says, these are the names of the Jewish people. When God created the world, he created the stars. Right? 2,448 years later, after God created the world, the Jews left Egypt. The Jews went into Egypt 210 years previous to that, when they entered in Egypt. So when they went into Egypt, there was a long time. It was 2,000 years after, 2,200 whatever years after the world was created, and God gave names to each one of the stars. And because the Jewish people likened to the stars, so he gave the Jewish people also names. Yehuda, Reuven. Kolomar, in other words, Kodesh Baruch Hu, the God, Kora Otam B'Shmot, God called the Jewish people by names, Kedei, in order, Lahadgish, to stress Chashivutam, their importance. Yechi Yisrael Holchim, the Galot, when the Jewish people went into exile, Alulim, it is very possible, Chas v'shalom, God forbid, Leilech, to get lost. Therefore, God counted them and called each one of them their names. Right? Like when you send your kid to the school, you put his name on his lunchbox, because everybody has lunchboxes. So you don't want to get lost. So you put a name, same thing. Every Jew had his name. They wouldn't get lost. He called them all names, so that they should not be negated. Because davar shebaminyan, because a thing which is counted is never batal. Okay, now this is a principle which when you learn also the Gemara and Chulin, and you learn the Shulchan Aruch, you want to become a rabbi. So there's the laws of Yeridea in chapter 110, and it talks about things that are never negated. And one of them is a davar shebaminyan, things which are counted. Things which are counted all the time, or some, according to one opinion, things that are counted sometime. Et shedarko limnos, kol shedarko limnos. Things which are all counted. For instance, if you live in a town where eggs are always sold by number. I learned in university. The university where I learned, it was near. They had a farm. They had a market day, and people would sell over there baskets of eggs, baskets of apples, baskets. You never count how many apples there were. How many? You bought a basket, right? A bushel of baskets. In here at Kfar Chabad, there's no such thing. You don't buy a basket of anything. You buy 5 eggs, 6 eggs. You buy 12 eggs, 20 eggs. You buy a certain number of eggs. Towns where eggs are always counted, as if there is one egg that comes from, let's say, a not kosher animal, or something's wrong with the egg, whatever reason it is, and that egg gets mixed up in 1 billion eggs, then all of those eggs are forbidden. We suspect that each one of those eggs is that egg. That's the law. Because it's a place where things are counted, and eggs are counted, so they're important. Because they're important, they're never batal. It says that they never lose their identity, and we suppose that each one of those eggs is the forbidden, because it's a place where eggs are always counted. And there's another opinion that even in some places where eggs are sometimes counted, it's the same thing. Right? The egg will never. And the same thing that what God did is He counted the Jews. He gave them all names so that they would be important. And when they were important, they would never lose their identity. They'd never be batal. Davar shebaminyan lo batal. When we call shekain, how much more so davar shenikra, that a thing which is called by a name, eino nishkach, won't be forgotten. Shezui, that this is chashivus gedolah. This is even more important. Davar shebaminyan. This is even more important than if the thing is a davar shebaminyan, a thing which is never counted, right? You put your son's name on his lunchbox. It gets mixed up in a million other lunchboxes. As you see, the teacher says, listen, just forget about him. You'll never find it. Just take anybody. He says, one thing, it has his name on it. His name on it. You can't take it. Somebody else's name.
From the wrong box. What a mess.
They take the wrong box. Somebody took his box. Somebody took it. Right? So here, God called each and every Jew a name so that he'll never get lost. They'll be important. She'im shachach balabayis, if a person forgot tavua, produce or peros or fruits in the field, harizeh shicha, it's called forgetting, and the poor people can get it. But kasher shocher davar nikra b'shem, but if it loses something that has a name on it, like it says in the Mishnah, kol zayit sheish lo shem b'sadeh, each olive that has a name on it. Oh, these are the olives of Mr. Gross. So then it's not called lost. Eino shicha, it's not called being lost, and the poor people can't take it. Kolomer she'av shelifi shav, even though temporarily, b'chitzonis, and externally, it looks like these olives or your lunchbox or whatever are lost. And zeh kashar shichos, it's not like every other thing that's lost. Shenase hefker, that it becomes ownerless for the poor people, whoever wants to take it. Ki mishum chashivos, because of the importance, lo shichacha me'olam balabayit. The owner never forgot about it. Kach also is the same thing with galus. Even though it seems that the Jewish people are similar to everyone else, and that God forgot us, this temple is destroyed, there was a Holocaust. But Tomer Tzion Azavani, and the Jewish people say, God has forgotten me. Hashem shachani, Hashem has left me. Hashem has left me, Hashem has forgotten me. But Kavan, since Shebnei Yisrael, the Jewish people are an important thing, Shari HaKodesh Baruch Hu Korash Shemos, God calls them all names, Einum yocholim, they can never be mizbatal, they can never be negated, or to be hefker, or to be, what do you want to call it, just forgotten. Because God will never forget them. Therefore, even though in the beginning the Midrash says that the Jewish people are like the stars in the heaven, shebahem, that in them, nichlalim gam, also the sun and the moon, the Midrash says, meshulam v'kochavim, they are corresponding to the stars. Because in the stars themselves, there are kochavim, the stars have an advantage over the sun and the moon. What's the advantage over the sun and the moon? On the sun and the moon, it is written, it says that the moon and the sun will be shamed and embarrassed. Of the kochavim, it says they'll be forever. The sun and the moon will be embarrassed by the revelation of godliness in the future, but it says the stars will be there forever. Now the Rebbe is going to ask a question on this that we'll see what the question is.
Well, so far he's explained why he gives them names.
Right.
Why that's important, but he hasn't said why it's so important that he repeats these names.
We'll see. Our main question was in the beginning, why tell us the names of the Jews when they go into Egypt? In other words, our Parsha is talking about when the Jews are going into Egypt.
Okay.
Why is that important? The main thing is just when they leave, right?
Okay,
so he's saying,
also a repeating of what was said in Bereshit.
Right, so he's saying, what was said in Bereshit was telling a nice story. That was the name. When the Jews are going out, it tells them they didn't leave their names, didn't change their names. But when they're going in, it wants to tell us something special. What's the reason that the Jewish people retain their identity? Because each one is important to God. That's why he called them names. And the Rebbe is going to ask a question in a minute. It's not the name that gives the importance, but rather the other way around. Importance is what gives the name. Because the thing is important to you, therefore you call it a name. Mm-hmm. Because the thing is important to you, therefore you always count it. Yeah. So it's not that the number or the name gives importance, but rather the other way around. So the Rebbe is going to ask that question in a minute. He's going to ask that question. We're going to say next class. Like we said many times, yesh lepirushim shonim al oto pasuk. All the explanations on every pasuk have a connection between them. Every sentence in the Torah, it says, can be explained 70 different ways. 70 or 70? 70, yeah. Shivim panim l'Torah. And some say that there's even more. And there's only one stipulation, is that the person who's doing it has to be a person who is what we call one who fears God. He believes that every word of the Torah is holy, and he wants to serve God. Some people can take words of the Torah and twist them all around. Twist them all around. That's basically what they do. The Catholics, the Protestants did it. They took all the words of the Torah. We believe every letter of the Torah, but they translated it in such a way that nothing has any meaning. Right? Keeping Shabbos is spiritual. The Jewish people, spiritual. Don't eat not kosher food. It's spiritual. Everything is spiritual. Right? Spiritual. This is not explaining the Torah. This is defaming the Torah. This is okay. That's a different story. But nevertheless, there are all the genuine explanations of the Torah that were made by people who really want to serve God better, according to the Torah, have a connection to them. Cain, who also, in regard to these two midrashim, by means that God calls the Jewish people by names, they become a davar chashiv, they become important, and they won't be batal. And this also gives them the power, like it said in the second midrash, that they will not change their names. Because the Jewish people know that they are special in God's eyes, they do not change their names. Shegalut Mitzrayim, that the exile in Egypt did not have any effect on them. Yotziu Misham, and they came out with the same names as when they went in with. The Jewish people, somehow or other, even though in the terrible oppression that they were in, they still retained their names and their identity. It says that the Jews retained their identity because the Egyptians were so hard on them. But eventually, in the course of history, the non-Jews learned that you can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. And they decided the way to make the Jews lose their Judaism is by being nice to them. By being nice. Right. Nice. That was what happened, especially with the time of the Greeks. Hashmonim. Napoleon was the big one. Napoleon was the one. Liberty Fraternity.
America's doing a pretty good job
Right.
of it.
And now in America, they do it on their own. Right. Even though they're surrounded by Goyim, the worst place is in Israel, where they're not surrounded by anybody, and they're not under anybody's power, and there's no Greeks ruling over them, and not Achashverosh, and nobody's ruling over them. And on their own, they've just decided to lose their names and to lose their this. You should know that there's a thing in Israel. There's a thing la'avret et Hashem, la'avret et Hashem, to make your name more Hebrew, right? Make your name more Hebrew. You have a name Avram, you should change it to Erez. You have a name that you call Yaakov, you should change it to Zorach, whatever. That's the name. Barak. As we'll change, talk about more later. Okay.
Okay.